Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me as always is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Good. Have you picked anything up on the Steam sale that's happening?
You know, I did get something, but I have not played it yet. I have been back and forth on getting Game Pass for a while, and I haven't done it yet, but I think I will inevitably do it at some point. But one of the things on Game Pass that has really been tempting me went on Steam sale today, so I was like, whatever, I'll just buy it. And that is Dishonored 2.
Ooh, yeah, you played the first one, right?
I played and loved the first one. I love that type of game. And I was like, you know what, I'll pick this up and maybe I'll play it. But I haven't played it yet. But I do own it now, so I have the ability to start it. But
yeah, as a Game Pass subscriber, those games are definitely some that I've had my eye on as something that I should dive into at some point. But
now,
haven't
what
gotten
about
around to it.
Before we started recording, you said you grabbed a couple things.
Yeah, so we talked about PopCap games at one point. I feel like maybe even on the show a couple weeks ago, and they had Peggle for like 99 cents. So I was like, I might as well just add this to my library.
That's a good buy.
Yeah, it's just like a fun game to jump into every now and then and do a level or two. And it's like a classic one. And for 99 cents, you can't go wrong. The other one I picked up was the original Psychonauts, which I have never played. It was like $2.99. So I was like, I might as well also add that to my library because I played and loved Psychonauts 2. And then I watched that very long documentary that Double Fine had on their YouTube channel, which was great, by the way. And I think there's a documentary about the first one and maybe even also Broken Age, neither of which I've played, and I haven't watched those documentaries either, but I'm very interested to now. So
I remember always being interested in Broken Age, because doesn't it have like very high-profile voice actors?
I think so. They usually do, I feel like. I mean, maybe it's just because, what's his name was in Brutal Legend.
Oh, Jack Black,
and he was in Psychonauts 2 as well. But like, I don't know. I feel like they always have. And also, what's the guy's name that played Frodo?
Elijah Wood.
Yes, he was also in Psychonauts 2. I don't know if he was in Psychonauts 1.
He was in Broken Age. He was like one of the main guys in
Okay.
Broken Age, yeah.
So yeah, they do get like big name voice talent for these games. So yeah, I don't know. I after watching that documentary, I was like, I need to check out more of their games, like because I've only ever played Psychonauts 2, which just came out within the last couple of years. So there's a lot I've sort of missed out on, but I love an independent studio. So
it's something that is on my list. I for a while have been like, I should really, because I watched, I think, a part of a playthrough of Broken Age, and I was like, I'm really charmed by this. Just like the animation, it is kind of just like a point and click adventure, which I haven't played one of those in a while, but it's interesting to me.
Yeah, I haven't played very many of those, but that's like what Tim Schafer is sort of known for, like back in the days when he was with like LucasArts and like his early Double Fine days. But yeah, I don't know. I will probably eventually check that one out. I feel like a lot of them are on Game Pass too.
I think that's true.
So I maybe didn't need to buy it actually, but it was only $2.99, and I was like, I could probably play this on Steam Deck, which seems like a good time. So.
Oh yeah, you got that Steam Deck, which is on sale right now for the first time because of the Steam sale. I think you can get 10% off of a Steam. Not to skip ahead, so there's a little bit of news today, but since there's not a lot, we're also going to be doing a feature. But just to dip into the news, Steam has, or I guess Valve has announced the dates for all of the remaining Steam sales are going to be happening this year. So,
oh really?
If you're interested, if you're thinking about buying a classic game, maybe Google like Valve Steam sale announcements, because you might want to wait for one of these times because it'll be super, super cheap.
Yeah, add stuff to your wish list and then like mark on your calendar when these Steam sales are happening.
Also, so I guess the biggest news of this week is RIP to Lance Reddick, who is, of course, Zavala from Destiny and a bunch of other things as well. He's in
John Wick.
He's in John Wick, but he's also in Horizon Forbidden West, right?
Oh yeah. He plays Silence in the Horizon games.
He seems like a cool guy. He was on that Comedy Bang Bang TV show, and he did like a very funny bit. He's also been on the Eric Andre show and did a very funny bit. He just seems like a really chill, cool guy. So R.I.P. to a guy with a great voice actor.
Yeah, gone way too soon. He's not that old, so it's a real surprise that happened. Yeah, I woke up from a nap and saw that on my phone. I was like, what? This is crazy.
Also, I get another video game connection. He was in that recent Resident Evil Netflix show, which people did not like, but I saw a very funny clip of him in that. I think he just liked to do funny, interesting things, so that's like why he joined in.
Yeah, I feel like he's like one of those cool guys that kind of gets it, where he's like, video games are like really cool, so like being able to be in them and like, you know, have that sort of fan support for like a project like that is really cool to be involved in. And because obviously that's based, the Netflix show he did was not good, but it was like based on a video game property, so he was like, this seems like an interesting thing to do.
I have never watched The Wire, but I've heard it's very good, and he's from that. But I knew him from Fringe, which is a great show that I used to watch. He was.
I didn't know he was in Fringe.
Oh yeah, he was like their main commanding officer guy, and I was
that show, but
I liked that show a lot. It's very good. It's on HBO Max right now. I actually a couple weeks ago I was like, man, I remember there were like a lot of great scenes from Fringe, and so I just like scrubbed through a bunch of episodes and watched those scenes and really enjoyed them. But he's a cool guy. R.I.P. to Lance Reddick.
Yeah. I'm not sure what they're going to do as far as Destiny goes, because Zavala is like one of the main characters. So
I saw that like there's been some community events, like just because it just happened. So players have been like congregating around Zavala and stuff and commemorating things. But I assume there's going to be some sort of in-game event where something happens. I don't think they'll change the voice actor, but I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
They're so close to the end of their story, supposedly. So it's possible that all of his voice lines are already recorded.
Yeah, it's true. And between like that and like probably unused recorded lines, they might be able to piece something together to like sort of give him a send-off of some sort. But yeah, sad news. Let's talk about some not sad news.
Yes, let's do it.
You and I are both sort of looking forward to this Hyperlight Breakers game, which is a sort of follow-up to Hyperlight Drifter from Heart Machine Games. Mm-hmm. And there was like a little documentary that I sent you somewhat recently from NoClip on YouTube.
There was a little bit of gameplay in the background of that.
Yeah, but they have recently released an official gameplay trailer, and it's announced that the game is actually coming to Steam in early access this fall. What did you think of this?
I'm into it. It does seem a little bit like they've definitely taken inspiration from something like Breath of the Wild, wherein you can climb, and it seems like you've got not only a paraglider but also a hoverboard, which is very cool. Traversal, I think, looks really cool. It's very, very stylish. I really, really like the combat. I still am not sold on it being infinitely generated. I don't know how that's going to be, but I think when we were texting about it, I was like, oh, this is giving me like Risk of Rain 2 vibes, which Risk of Rain 2 is a very fun game that I have dumped a lot of hours in, and it is also somewhat procedurally generated. So, I mean, if it can pull off something like a Risk of Rain 2, but look like this and have like maybe a cool background story, I'm all about it. And I think it's possible. It seems like there's different characters. It doesn't seem like you get to customize your character, but you get to play as different ones. It's possible you can unlock the original Drifter, which would be very, very cool to me. What did you think about this trailer?
Just from rewatching this gameplay trailer, it's unclear to me if you're playing the same character every run, but you get like different weapons and different outfits, maybe like different armor. But yeah, I think the idea of an open world roguelike is very interesting to me for some reason. Like, I'm not a huge roguelike person, but like something about having it be an open world that you can explore and have it be slightly different every time you do is a little bit interesting. Oh, I just saw there was as I'm rewatching this, there was a little part in the trailer where you see them sort of riding on their surfboard type things, and there are 3 different characters. So that's, I guess, a confirmation that it's not just different outfits and weapons that you can pick up. It is 3 different people. So I wonder if maybe you get to pick which one you want to go in.
I think so. Probably they all have different. I mean, if it's like Risk of Rain 2, each character plays a little differently. Like maybe one is more gun focused and one is like one of them. There's one shot where it seems like a character's walking into the foreground and it has like Wolverine claws almost, which like is kind of a crazy build.
Well, yeah. So like the main one that I think they've shown previous to this, even I thought was going to be like the main character, and you see that character using like a variety of different weapons in this trailer, and that's why I thought maybe it was just like it depended on maybe some armor you picked up or something like that. But no, it does look like 3 different characters. But
and the shot at the end, after it says like early access fall, it looks like there's at least 5 characters. One of them is a dragon with a big old sword.
Like from what is that? Divinity Original Sin 2, you can play like a lizard person.
Yeah, the Red Prince. I'm all about this. I want to know more, and hopefully we will know more when it releases in the fall. But what's this Ghostwire Tokyo news? Coming to Xbox consoles next month, added DLC?
Yeah, so this was originally a timed exclusive for PlayStation. I guess it did come out on PC. I don't remember if that was a simultaneous launch, but I played it on PS5, and I really liked it, even though I think it is like most people are kind of meh on it, or it got like, you know, not bad reviews, but like it wasn't like a standout by any means. But I really liked it enough that I put it on my top 10 list last year. And so it is coming to Game Pass, I believe. Am I right about that?
You know what else is coming to Xbox, speaking of this, is that Sea of Stars just announced it's also coming to Xbox when it launches.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did say that I think their previous release, The Messenger, did not make it to Xbox. They wanted to, but they were only able to get it out on the other consoles for some reason. But they were excited to be able to announce that Sea of Stars is also coming to Xbox.
Very cool.
So, yeah, that's very cool. The new content... seems like new enemies, and maybe some new like side quests and stuff like that. It seems like the kind of thing that would be good if you are starting a new playthrough rather than jumping back into an old one, maybe. But so I don't know if I will play this, but I played and liked the original game, and the fact that it is coming to Xbox and will have additional content, that's I think a good thing. So. Did you by any chance see the preview for this game called Atlas Fallen that I had completely written off based on the trailer that we watched like a year or 2 ago?
Yeah, I forgot about this. I remember like zooming around in the desert or whatever, but yeah, I had also written this off.
I think the trailer we saw was like cinematic, and I had no concept of what the game was actually going to be like based on it. But a YouTuber I follow called ESO, who plays a lot of like Elder Scrolls stuff, which is why his name is ESO, put out a video. I guess he got like early access to like some sort of limited amount of content from the game. It seemed like he didn't really get to dig into the story at all, but he maybe got to run around the open world and try out some of the movement mechanics and do some like side quests and some fights against like big enemies. And like I was surprised to be impressed by what I saw from this, because I could see you easily looking at this and go, oh, this is just like another Forspoken game that's going to be like an open world, fairly forgettable like thing. But the combat in this game actually looks really fun, as does like the movement mechanics. So I don't know. This probably will be another like Ghostwire Tokyo situation where it's like, oh, it's an open world. People who like open world games will play this and get something out of it, and people who are like, open world games are rote will just like write this thing off and ignore it. But I don't know. It just struck me how different I felt about it having watched this preview versus when I saw the initial trailer. So I thought it was worth mentioning.
It's interesting. Yeah, I'm watching the gameplay now, and it does look fun. It looks like a fun open world game with a lot of just emergent systems where you're going around an open world, and you have somewhat of like physics powers. It seems like you can move. It seems like you can move platforms almost.
Yeah, so it seems like you move platforms around, and he gets in a little bit to like the abilities and like armor and crafting and character builds and things. But like I linked the video in our show notes, and you can click on it. And I think partway through there's like a combat gameplay overview, and that was the stuff that really kind of got my attention. And he did say there's also like a parry mechanic that is like very forgiving, unlike stuff like a Soulsborne style game where it's very like you have to nail it on the exact right frame. This is like way more forgiving than that, supposedly. Yeah, I don't know. I came away from watching this video a lot more impressed by this game than I thought I was going to be. And so it is now sort of on my short list of things to watch for, but it will depend on what it sort of launches alongside, because it is sort of a packed schedule. Let me see if I can recall when this comes out.
It's not in this guy's video. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Ooh. Zach.
May 16th is when it comes out.
To come out.
Not a good time at all. It seems like maybe the week after Tears of the Kingdom. So if I were them, I would delay this.
Probably a good idea.
Because they need more time, but because they need to not release right after Zelda. So this is going to be this year's Horizon. But yeah, anyway, worth checking out if you have any interest of like third person sort of combat focused open world games. Tell me about this House of the Gundead arcade cabinet.
I love Enter the Gungeon. It's a game I've never beaten, but I love to dive. I've purchased it on a number of platforms. They're owned, or I guess their publishing house or whatever is Devolver, who's known for doing crazy stuff. And as like a April Fool's Day joke, a couple of years ago, they were like, "Hey, we're making an arcade cabinet," and then they actually did it. So they are releasing House of the Gundead, a real life arcade cabinet. It's coming to like I think 8 different arcades. You can buy one, and I think it's like maybe $6,000 or something. So probably not a lot of people are going to buy one of these, but it's cool. It's a little gun con game. So like it's one of those ones where it's like a Time Crisis where you have a little gun controller and you shoot at the screen, and it tells it like progresses the story a little bit in the Enter the Gungeon universe. And they announced it this week, and I don't know when it's shipping to those arcades, but I would assume this is something you're going to see at cons. Like when you go to PAX, you'll probably see an House of the Gungeon cabinet somewhere where you can play. It seems cool though. What do you? I assume you're watching the trailer for it right now. How does this look to you?
I mean, I definitely have fond memories of like going to the movie theater, and before going to the movie, or like waiting for them to start seating, I would like play Time Crisis on an arcade cabinet there, and that was very fun. And this does look like that, but obviously in the Enter the Gungeon universe. But I have never played Enter the Gungeon.
Oh, really? Oh man, such a good game. I'm all about this. I like it. Arcades aren't really a thing anymore. They were for a while. I feel like they were coming back, and the barcade was a big deal, but I think COVID kind of squashed that. But who knows? They might make another resurgence, and I would love it. They're
still out there. They just don't have. They're not as big as they used to be.
Yeah, I would love to play this at some point. Who knows if I ever will? But this, and there was that Killer Queen. Did you ever play Killer Queen?
No, I know Killer Queen Black came to Stadia at one point, and that was sort of a big deal for Stadia people.
Because it was the first time you could ever play it not in arcade cabinet. But for a while, you could only play Killer Queen basically at like conventions where they brought the cabinet, or at select arcades where they purchased the cabinet. But similarly, this will be hard to play for a while. I mean, who knows if this will ever come out for consoles? It might be able to come out on like, I don't know. You would need a VR
thing. Maybe?
Yeah, it could be a VR thing actually. Actually, it'd be perfect for VR. But that's something I wanted to mention. And then we already talked about the Steam sales thing. And then this is a weird little thing that I don't know if I'm going to play, but Super Meat Boy, people love Super Meat Boy. And they announced a spin-off this week out of nowhere that is kind of a match 4 game. But it's got some weird mechanics on it that I don't really understand, even as I'm watching the gameplay. But if you like Super Meat Boy, there's now a new way to engage with that universe. There is this weird match 4 game that seems to have crazy mechanics that I've not seen in a match 4 game before. There's enemies on the board, and sometimes there's saws, and I think you're trying to match 4 every time, but maybe you're trying to do different things every time. There's I don't know. I don't really understand it, but it exists.
Huh. Yeah, this is an old school style of match 4 game that we used to see a lot on older consoles and handhelds and stuff.
As a child, I owned the game Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Oh, yeah?
Which is an Americanization of, I think, Puyo Pop Fever. My brother was very into it. But that's really the only is it fair to call it a Tetris-like?
I think you would call it a Dr. Mario-like.
I saw a crazy thing on Twitter today or earlier this week. I think South by Southwest is going on right now, or was going on this week. And some old film critic wrote a review of the Tetris movie that's coming out.
I know what you're talking about.
Do you actually? Where he was like, you might find this crazy, but I'd never heard of Tetris before.
I do find that crazy.
And I find
it even more crazy that you were the one that wrote the review for something that you've never even heard of before.
Insane.
Yeah.
I don't know what that guy, he probably just writes for a local Austin newspaper or something, and he's been there forever.
I thought that was for one of the somewhat bigger outlets.
I thought after his name there was a KTRU or something, a call sign. Maybe I'm wrong.
Really?
I didn't investigate it super.
I don't. Yeah.
But well, should we do our feature? Or should we get into games out this week?
Let's do games out this week real quick, and then we'll jump into our feature. So first up, the game that I think I've seen the most people playing and talking about is Diablo 4. There's a closed beta that's available this weekend as we're recording this. There will be an open beta this coming weekend as this episode is going up. So you got kind of 2 chances to jump in there and try it out. The closed beta is only for people who have pre-ordered the game. So I guess if you are really into it and you want to jump in, you get 2 shots at a beta. But people seem to be into it. I know even Jason Schreier was like, this seems good. The story seems good, the music is good, and he seemed to be into it.
Have you played a Diablo before?
I have played Diablo likes. I haven't played an actual Diablo. Well, Diablo Immortal kind of doesn't count, but I played the Torchlight games, Torchlight 1 and 2, and those are basically Diablo, but they were built for Xbox 360 back in the day as a console version, and then of course the Diablo game started coming out on console, so it's well, now we don't need this. But yeah, so Diablo Immortal was served a little bit as proof of concept to me of what the game could be and whether or not I could enjoy it. Of course, the end game of that ended up being pretty terrible and very monetization heavy. So yeah. I bounced off of that pretty quickly. But it made me sort of a little bit looking to see what the reception for Diablo 4 would be as something I might want to jump into. Because I can enjoy that style of game based on obviously having played the Torchlight games, which are basically just Diablo clones with a different skin on it. But so yeah, I think if this comes out and people are it's not bad, it's not Diablo Immortal, don't worry about it, then I will totally be receptive to this game. Also, my question was, will it come to Game Pass? Just given that, Microsoft's trying to buy Activision Blizzard. I looked it up and they said no, but obviously that was, maybe disconnected to the idea that Microsoft might soon own Blizzard. So I guess that will be the big question. Like, I have to think, regardless, this will eventually be on Game Pass. Maybe not day one, but maybe eventually.
I've never heard of this
game, Vernal Edge.
Yeah, I've not heard of this.
So this is a Metroidvania that just came out this last week, and it seems kind of interesting. It's got like a unique art style where, like, most of the time, obviously, it's side-scrolling, platforming, combat stuff. But then, like, I think you travel between zones, and it's like you're in like an airship flying around, and it looks very much like something from the PS1 generation. But it's like, I think it is around $15, and it was made by like a single developer, and it seems cool. Like, the reviews I saw seem mostly positive for it. So
I do like the art style.
Yeah, so if you like Metroidvanias and you're always sort of on the lookout for new Metroidvanias the way I am, I would say have a look at this one. I have not picked this up or tried it yet, but it's something I have been following a little bit since I first heard about it, which was just this last week. I was like, wait, what is this game? It's a Metroidvania? Where did this come from?
I do really like the look of it, actually. I'm watching the trailer right now.
Yeah, it looks pretty solid, I have to say. So, worth a look. The other thing that is out, or that happened this weekend as we're recording this, is the Exoprimal open beta has happened. And this game is very... how do you describe this?
It's like EDF.
It is... well, it's made in the RE engine, so I'm a little bit surprised by that, but it does look pretty good. I played some of it last night because it's an open beta, and so I just downloaded it on Xbox and played for a couple hours. And it sort of blends Overwatch with Left 4 Dead, but like...
Interesting. That's an interesting comparison.
Instead of zombies, it's like dinosaurs. And because there are so many on your screen at any given time, it almost feels like a Muso style, like Dynasty Warriors game. And you have these exosuits that you're using that they basically are like Iron Man suits, the way they sort of envelop you, like they kind of open up and you jump
like
into
Anthem
them. And
almost.
Yeah, so they actually kind of look like the suits from Anthem or even something like Warframe. They look a lot like those style exosuits. But the mode that's available during this beta is sort of like a Gambit from Destiny 2, where it's like PvEVP, and you have like you're sort of racing against another team to complete objectives, and like after you complete an objective, like the voiceover will come out and be like, you're completing objectives faster, or maybe it's slower than the other team.
I didn't realize that it was you were competing against another team.
Yeah. And so this is just like one game mode. I think there will probably be like a story mode as well, and there might be some other game modes as well. But like for now, with the open beta, this is the one that they have. And I like 2/3 of this mode because like the first 2/3 of it is basically just that Gambit style. Let's go complete objectives and try to do it faster than the other team. And you're sort of like Overwatch style. You have your DPS characters, you have your tank characters, and you have your support characters. And within those sort of different types of exosuits that you can have, you have multiple different choices there. So you can try them each out, and you're sort of leveling them up and getting unlocks for each of them, which confuses me a little bit because you don't seem to be able to equip any of the things you unlock. Like there's no inventory screen like outside of the game mode that you're in. So like when you go back to the menu, the only option you have is to match make for another match.
Do you think it's because it's in the beta and eventually that'll unlock?
I think maybe that's the case. I do think that there will eventually be like some sort of like inventory loadout type of a thing that you can go into, hopefully. But yeah, the classes I played all seemed fun and enjoyable, and like doing the sort of Gambit style objective completion was also fun. I just didn't like the last third of it because it basically becomes this like you're in sort of a big set piece, and they're like, I think 2 different ways it can sort of go down. You're either supposed to like collect these like data keys that like appear around the map, but like, and it's like first to 100 wins, but you're also sort of fighting off big like waves of dinosaurs that are coming after you, and you're fighting the other team. So that's where it becomes like literal PvP and not like PvEVP. And in my experience,
it sounds very much like Gambit now that you're describing it.
Well, so the way Gambit works,
can you invade the other side?
When you can, there is a mechanic where you like basically lasso a T-Rex and you send it to the other side, and you control the T-Rex and you're just attacking them. But that's like a separate thing to this final wave, the last third of the game. Because in Gambit, when you get to the end, the last sort of portion of Gambit is a race to take down a big boss enemy. And then like it's possible to like go through a portal and have one of your teammates invade the other team and try to take them out. And as you do that, if you get a kill, it like restores some of the health of the boss. And they can, of course, do that to you as well. It's like if there were, instead of a boss you had to fight, you just had to collect stuff, but you're in the same space as the entire other team. And so it almost starts feeling a little bit like team deathmatch, which I don't love, but also there's like a bunch of dinosaurs that you're dealing with. And it just kind of starts feeling very chaotic, such that I can't follow it very well. And also it almost feels like the first 2/3 of the game, when you're where you're just doing the PvE stuff and you're completing objectives, that's where it's like Overwatch. Okay, we need to have, a balanced team with support classes and tanks and DPS characters, and we need to work together. And, I can sort of serve as the healer and heal my teammates, but also dish out some damage as well. But then you get to that last phase and it's like, well, why am I going to play a healer? Because my team's all over the place trying to collect these things. And I got enemies shooting at me that I'm not going to be able to 1v1. So I might as well just swap to a DPS character, and there's no point in any of the team mechanics anymore. So I don't know. I don't love that. Maybe I need to just play more of it and try to understand the mode a little bit better. But there's another way that final phase can play out as well, where instead of collecting data keys, I think you pick up a hammer and you charge up the hammer, I think, by like taking out the dinosaurs. And then you have to like take out these 2 towers, I think, of some sort by using the hammer. And then you end up in this like final arena where both teams are sort of facing off against each other trying to do that. And again, that one also becomes very, very chaotic. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what the other modes will be like once the game actually comes out. I'm also curious to see if they will do another beta for this to like just show off some of the other modes. But it's coming to Game Pass, so I will probably try it out a little bit when it comes out as well. And maybe I'll even play a little bit more of the beta this weekend just to see if I can maybe understand it, or just like try out some of the other classes. But so far, I'm wishing it was more like Gambit than it actually is, because I actually really like Gambit in Destiny. And so if it were more like the last wave was like trying to take out a giant boss, or like maybe multiple smaller bosses before the other team, and you had like an invade mechanic, I think that would be more fun to me than this like sort of chaotic, like you're in an arena and everybody's fighting each other, but also there are dinosaurs swarming you all the time. And I also don't understand it, because it seems like in the one where you're collecting data keys, like the the amount that we have versus the amount the other team has fluctuates super rapidly, and I don't understand what's happening. Like, I think you can when you collect keys, it doesn't seem like you have to drop them off anywhere. It seems like maybe you just hold on to them. But you can die, and if you die, you drop some, and they can pick them up. But, like, how many do I drop? How many are they picking up? Like, I've seen, like, rapid swings of momentum in this game mode where, like, we'll be leading, like, 80 keys to, like, 20, and it will, in an instant, like, flip on its head, and they will end up winning. And I have no clue what's happening or why it happened that way. I don't know. I need to watch like a guide of like somebody explaining how this thing works, because it doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't. Now that I think about it, I don't think I won a single match last night. But it was. I don't know. It was still fun. Like, I liked the classes and I liked the combat style. And I liked fighting the NPC enemies. It's just that last mode that just turns into chaos, and I lose track of everything and don't know what's happening, and then I lose the match, and it's like, well, that doesn't feel good. But but yeah, I'm curious to see more from the full game. Maybe this is just a mode I don't enjoy, and I will end up not playing it once the full game comes out, and there'll be other stuff I play. But I would love like just a full-on PvE thing for like.
That's what I thought it was. I didn't realize there was this whole other element where you were competing with another team.
Yeah, like I said, it might just be this one game mode, but I don't know for sure. But it's definitely interesting. I would say it's an open beta, so give it a shot and see how you feel about it. And of course, it is coming to Game Pass as well, if you're curious. So worth checking out. But yeah, that's my initial early impressions on this game. It is coming out in July. So we've got a little bit of time. They could definitely do another beta between now and then. So yeah.
Zach, it's time for a feature.
Let's do the feature.
We have devised what we're calling our Desert Island Top 5s. This is a situation, we talked about what this entails before we started recording. But this is a situation where we would be trapped on a desert island, but we are not just in a hut. We are in a nice house. We have food and water and a place to sleep. We have every console / a computer, but we don't have access to the internet. We're basically going to be stranded in this house for, between 6 months to a year. And we have to pick 5 games each that we are going to entertain ourselves with on this desert island.
Yeah, and no internet is significant because that cuts out a big portion of games. Yeah. Like anything that requires an internet connection or is like an online game do not qualify for our list.
So we have each gotten. I not really have these in any sort of order, I don't think. But do you want to do your first game?
I didn't really order mine either, but we can start. I did like type them out and then put them in a numbered list, so I couldn't start with my number 5. My number 5 is Chrono Trigger.
Ooh.
Because I have never played all the way through this game. And I feel like if I were stuck on a deserted island and I only could play games, I might actually be able to make it all the way through it. And it's like a classic that everybody loves. And I feel like I should definitely do that at some point. And this would be a great opportunity. Have you ever played Chrono Trigger?
No, I haven't, but I've also heard very good things.
I love the look of it, and obviously there are so many games that come out these days that are very clearly inspired by it. Obviously, Sea of Stars is coming up as one that is very heavily inspired. There was that Chained Echoes game as well, which is another one. So I like the look of it. I definitely want to play all the way through it. So what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Mario Odyssey.
That is a good pick. I did think about putting that on my list.
I love this game, and I had I played all the way through it, and I did like the moon levels and whatnot. And then I watched my girlfriend play through it, and then she kind of put it down for a while after she beat it, and she didn't do any of the like extra moon levels, like moonstone levels or whatever. And we picked it back up and played those again together, and I was like, man, I can't get enough of this game. I could play this forever. And so that is my number 5 is Mario Odyssey. So I'll have a Switch with me.
That really is the strategy. Like, you either pick a game that's like super long, or you pick something that's endlessly replayable. Yeah. And I feel like Mario Odyssey is a good one that's a little bit of both. It's not crazy long, but it is super replayable.
A lot of moons to get also if you want to try to hunt. I've never gotten close to 100%ing it, but yeah. What's your number 4?
Similar vein to my last pick is Earthbound.
Ooh.
Another game that I have never played all the way through. I've played a good amount of it, enough to know that I like it and I'm really into it, but I have never played the full game. And it's another beloved classic Super NES era RPG. And again, if I were stranded on a desert island and I could only take 5 games with me, I would have plenty of time to sit around and get all the way through this game. And I feel like it would be a great way to pass the time.
For sure.
What's your number 4?
I wonder if this is on your list. It's a game that I have started multiple times, but I have actually never completed, and there's been a ton of extra content for it. I'm talking, of course, about Stardew Valley.
Oh, it is not on my list, but that is a good choice. That's another one that's like super long if you want it to be, and also endlessly replayable.
That guy, Concerned Ape, has continued to add content to it, and now there's like a whole other island you can get to. There's like a post-game thing where I think you can get to a tropical island and start a whole new farm with a whole new like crops and things, and like storylines and stuff. He's just like, he's never stopped working on this, and I don't remember. I think the last time I played it was like the big 1.5 update or whatever when they added a ton of stuff. But again, I really only ever get to winter. So I've gotten to the second summer a couple of times, but for whatever reason, I fall off.
But that's basically how I play it too. I get to about winter, and usually that's where I fall off.
But I would love to. I mean, I think that every year has like scripted events that happen, and I would love to dig deeper than I've ever dug before. What's your number 3?
Now, my number 3 is another game that it's weird because I have played Persona 5. I'm talking about Persona 5 Royal, though, which is even longer and has more content. And I never actually did finish Persona 5. And I've always meant to go back and play Persona 5 Royal. It came out recently on a bunch of other things. And
Switch
it's so crazy long. Yeah, it's on the Switch now. Or you can play it on Steam Deck. But it is insanely long, and it would be a great way to fill a lot of time while stranded on a desert island, for sure. This is a game that I have always meant to go back and play, and then they added an even longer version in Persona 5 Royal. I played all the way through Persona 5 Strikers, which is like the sort of Muso spinoff that I actually really liked. But I have not gone back to this yet, so I would pack this if I were being deserted on an island. Tell me about your number 3.
Similar to Stardew Valley, this is a game that I've never completed, but has constantly had work being done on it. And this is Satisfactory. We did a video on this forever ago on our YouTube channel where I was showing off a factory that I had been creating with my friends. But since then, that was probably the last time I played. Since then, there have been like 3 or 4 major content updates. Like they've added insane new things like fluid dynamics and pipes and like train things that are new and just all these crazy, crazy things. And they're still adding to it. But this is a game that basically where you create the whole point is to ship things back to society or whatever. So like you drop down on this planet, you don't really have anything. You're building your first major goal is to create a space elevator. And once you create that space elevator, that's where the rest of your goals are going to go. Like you collect things to put into the space elevator and ship it up to, low orbit. And, you're doing that. I've never completed the game because again, it's kind of moving goalposts. They keep adding technology levels or whatever. But if I had a bunch of time, it's still something I think about all the time, like how I would optimize a factory, especially with all these new toys. I could really get in and just sink hours. The first time I ever played Satisfactory, I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but we all were like, it was like a Saturday night, and we were like, what should we do? Let's download this game, Satisfactory. We downloaded it, and we played it for 7 hours straight. It was like 4 a.m. when we finished, and we were like, man, this is crazy. So I think I could definitely dump a bunch of time into this game.
Yeah.
Hit me with that number 2.
I wonder if this is on your list. We're running out of possibilities, but my number 2 is Skyrim.
I had it on my list for a little bit of time, but then I took it off because I wanted to put Mario Odyssey on.
Yeah, so I've played this game through multiple times, and I own it on, I think, every console I've ever owned, basically, and PC. And for some reason, it just doesn't get old. Like, it is not looking as good as it used to, and I'm sure it doesn't feel as smooth to play as it once did if you go back to it, but, like, I don't know, something about it. I love the world. I love the story, the different storylines that you're playing through, the different quest lines. Like I said, I've played it through a bunch of times, and it never seems to get old to me.
Have you played all the DLCs, like the Ultimate Edition that comes with like the vampire DLC and stuff?
I played through some of it. I haven't played through all of it, which, again, if I were stranded on a desert island, it would give me all the excuse in the world to finally get all the way through the DLC. But it's another one of those games that to me is endlessly replayable because you could always take an entirely different approach to like leveling your character. And I don't know, I absolutely love Skyrim. It is definitely one of my top 5 games of all time. Hoping that Starfield, when it comes out, will maybe be exactly like that, but set in space. So that's why I'm hyped for that game. But yeah, if I were stranded on a desert island today and Starfield were not out yet and I had to pick a game, I guess it would be Skyrim. What's your number 2?
We talked about it earlier. Enter the Gungeon.
Yeah, I wondered if this would be on your list after you brought up that news story.
A game that I have never 100%ed. Like, every character has a storyline, and like after you do the main dungeon, you do like their personal level that's like has like a crazy twist, and then afterward you like the whole point of that game is you're trying to kill your past because like something terrible has happened in your past, so you're all trying to get this gun that like loops around backwards and you can use it to kill like a past event or whatever. So you basically at the end of every run, if you get to the end of every run, you can like go back to this person's past and try to solve it or whatever. And each of those levels is very cool. I've only seen a couple of them, but I've never killed the past of any character in that game. And there's also a number of unlocks that I don't have, like a number of guns I've never seen, but also a number of characters that I have never unlocked because it takes a while. So I would actually spend some time and hopefully be able to unlock at least a couple endings in this before I was rescued from the desert island. Mm-hmm. But this would be one. This is really, I mean, maybe Mario Odyssey is one where, you know, you can have like fast-paced gameplay, but Stardew Valley and Satisfactory, you're kind of just chilling out all the time. So if I really wanted to like sweat for a second, I could pop in, Enter the Gungeon, and have some like I considered putting like Doom on my list just for something to like shoot around in, but I think Enter the Gungeon will scratch that itch. Hit me with your number 1.
My number 1, and you probably saw this coming, is the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, because it's 3 games in one, and it's the entire trilogy, and with all the DLC, and it's probably my favorite game series ever. And recently, I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast. We might have talked about it before we started recording a week or two ago. I handed down my PS4 to my brother, who did not have a console at the time. And the last time he had a console was the 360. And like, we were both huge fans of Mass Effect. It's both of our probably favorite games of all time. And so just to watch him be able to start a fresh playthrough of that with the Legendary Edition was very fun. And so it has been a little bit top of mind over the last week or so. And so I guess that makes sense as to why it would be on my list. But 3 games in one. You got a lot of time to kill on a desert island, and you could do probably multiple runs of the entire trilogy in that time. But and you could play it different ways. You could go Paragon, you could go Renegade. Love Mass Effect, love getting into sort of the lore of it and talking to all the different people and doing all the side stuff, and just a great franchise, I would say. What's your number one?
Well, talking about infinitely replayable things, my number one is Minecraft. Another game similar to, it's like a theme with both of us. Most of our games on our list are things we have not beaten, and I've never killed the Ender Dragon before. But I mean, I wouldn't necessarily play it to beat it. I think I would just play it to chill out and, create a little house and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it can be very relaxing and also a big time sink. Like, if I have a thing in mind, the way I usually play Minecraft is I'll go into it with a, like, what do I want to create this time? Maybe I want to create like an underwater base. Like, I spent a bunch of time years ago building a big base underwater with like a glass ceiling that looked very cool. Or like maybe I want to build a mountain roost or something. And once I have that goal in mind, it is a game where you sort of have to give yourself your own goals. But I think I could spend a bunch of time playing Minecraft on a desert island before I was ultimately saved.
I'm realizing I only picked RPGs and I should have switched it up just for variety's sake. And one of the things, as you're talking about Minecraft, that I definitely thought about, probably should have been on my list somewhere. And maybe my list would be completely different if we did this like a week or two or a month or a year from now. But I should have put No Man's Sky on here.
Oh, yeah.
I know it does have like online connectivity and stuff, but you can play it offline. In fact, I think the Switch version doesn't even have the online stuff at all. So, but that's a game that's also endlessly replayable, and you can just spend an infinite amount of time just exploring the universe and like building like to your heart's content everywhere. And another great game, but I went with stuff that I either haven't played very much of or haven't played all the way through, or something that I know I love for sure. But yeah, that's our list. If you're wanting to, you can go ahead and send in your list to our email. We do have an email, StarSideCafe@gmail.com. On that note, do you want to hit me with your parting wisdom? Or wait, we do have what we're watching.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about two things quickly. The Last of Us finale happened. The first season was pretty good, actually. Not a lot of low points. They did a weird thing though, where they revealed like why Ellie is immune to mushroom or fungus or whatever. Mm-hmm. Which is that her mom, who they got to play, the original Ellie plays her mom in the show, which is a cool nod. But basically, her mom is pregnant with her and going into labor, and then gets bit by a zombie, and then as that's happening, gives birth. And one of the main characters, Marlene, sees this happen and has to deal with it or whatever. But it's weird to have that knowledge. I feel like it was better when... This is my only gripe with the show. I feel like it was better when you didn't know why she was immune. That's why they had to cut her open at the end to figure out. Whereas now that they know, I don't know why they aren't just why spend all of the time to treacherously trek across America to get this person to a doctor when they know the process. They can... I mean, it's... Well,
I thought getting to the doctor was more about is there a way to maybe use a sample of her blood to create something to give immunity to other people, create some sort of vaccine of some sort? But maybe that's not the case.
I mean, even if it was the case, they know how it's done. I guess part of it is that maybe they didn't know she was immune until she got bit and didn't turn. They just thought oh, she was lucky. But once you have that knowledge, which Marlene has that knowledge that if a pregnant mother gets bit at a certain time and then gives birth, that baby's going to be immune. That's I think a better way to solve the problem than spending all this time trekking across America and maybe getting killed a bunch of times. I don't know. I think it maybe is better if it's a mystery, similar to how we were talking about last week, the Joker, how the Joker is better without an origin story. If you just never know where he came from, I think it's a better mechanic to have it be you don't know why Ellie's immune, and that's why they have to perform the surgery to figure it out, as opposed to, oh, she was in this circumstance, which is easily recreatable, but we're just going to do it on her.
Is it easily recreatable? So, like, if you have a pregnant woman, you're like, all right, let's get a zombie.
Yeah.
Now, mom, you are going to die. Yeah. Sorry. But it will be better for your child.
Well, this is a world where there's a bunch of fascist governments in charge that are just like holding these DMZ zones or whatever. Or no, they're not called DMZs. What are they called? QZs, the quarantine zone. But I mean, like, a lot of the games are just going to these like QZs where the military is in charge and they're just like, this is how it goes. We're trying to survive. So I could totally see the military being like, this is a solution. Let's like get a bunch of criminals or whatever. I don't know. It's terrible to think about, but it's also like, if this is a solution
that's going to repopulate the world.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to save the world, this is maybe what has to happen. But the other thing I wanted to talk about.
I could see that being like an interesting sort of thought-provoking, well, how do you save humanity and ensure like humanity has a future? Well, we have to do this horrible thing that will lead to a lot of deaths, but it will make it so our future children are immune to this thing that has wiped out the rest of us.
I wanted to talk about one more thing, and maybe it's something you have seen. Have you ever seen the movie So Close?
I don't think so.
I watched it in high school back in the day, but this was during one of our like classic high school parties where we would go out to Taco Bell and then go to Blockbuster, not to date myself, and rent a movie from the international section solely based on its cover. And so we rented this in high school, but this was one where it was already like 1 a.m. when we started the movie, and I fell asleep and didn't see the second half of it. But it popped up on Amazon Prime, and I was like, man, I really want to like know what happens at the end of this movie. And it's good. We've talked about this in the podcast before, but there is a prime time in Hong Kong cinema that was like right at the turn of the year 2000, slightly afterward, where like it's very actiony. Everyone has Palm Pilots for some reason. Everyone's wearing those like yellow glasses, and it's just like very cool and funny and like excellently paced. And this is a great movie that has a great ending that I won't spoil, but I'm glad that I went back to it and finally got to watch the finale. But if you have Amazon Prime and you're looking for just like a good action movie that's from the 90s that is also very funny at times, I don't think it's trying to be funny though, definitely check out So Close, available on Amazon Prime.
I will definitely add that to my watch list and try to get around to it.
Very good.
This definitely seems like something I would enjoy.
An excellent kind of movie, I have to say. Have you been watching or playing anything?
I mean, I've played more Dead Cells Return to Castlevania. Not a whole lot. I didn't play a ton this week. I did play a little bit more of that, and obviously last night I jumped into that Exoprimal beta, but that's been about it. But yeah, I think I might try to watch this movie.
It's very good, I have to say. But on that note, I think it is time for my parting wisdom, and it's actually going to be wisdom I got from you, Zach.
Oh.
Before we started recording, I said that I had tried scrambled eggs with hot sauce for the first time, and you were like, that's great, but what you should actually do, or what you should do in addition to that, is put a little bit of garlic powder on there. And that sounds like a great idea that I'm going to try.
And Frank's. You add garlic powder and Frank's, and then sprinkle some shredded cheddar on it. Ooh. And it's very, very good.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. You got to mix up your scrambled eggs.
Yeah, it could be scrambled eggs. Could be, what's the other way to prepare eggs?
Easy.
Over easy. Over hard. However you like it. That's going to be a good compliment, for sure. And on that note, go ahead and follow us at Starside Cafe on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, and leave us a review, our podcast, and check out our website, starsidecafe.com, where all of this stuff goes up. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.